um, uh, some stuff with Donald Trump and this interesting thing with these sneakers. I know this is a current event. We're going through our book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, but I really think that the sneaker thing is relevant in terms of the conversation about sort of how Black people are sort of being seen in this country. And I don't know if any of you saw this, but did any of you see where there's some guy, now this is one guy's opinion, right? This is just one person's perspective. But when Trump released these sneakers that he has, everybody's seen his sneakers, right? Give me a guess if you've seen the Donald Trump sneakers, the golden shoes, I guess, like the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy golden slippers. They're kind of weird looking. And it's so yeah, so did anybody see where on Fox News there was a guy who pretty much said this is going to help Trump get the black vote because black people love sneakers. Anybody see that? And so some of you would ask me, what do I think about that? What's my assessment of that? And I think my assessment is not as important as understanding the nature of his assessment and the nature of this general assessment of the black community being very immature politically and economically and otherwise, right? That somehow him having a sneaker line would make him relatable and make him sort of a guy that black people suddenly love because he likes his sneakers just like I like my sneakers and all this other stuff and I there's nothing against sneakers. I know that a lot of people like sneakers and stuff like that. But it really made me think about another Republican who has a sneaker line that's very popular, and that's the source of his power. Actually, is Kanye West, and I've mentioned to you guys many times about my conversations with Kanye and how they went. They went okay, but they didn't go so great. After a while, I got kind of bored. I didn't really want to talk to him anymore. And I find that really interesting that there is a general perception of black people sort of grabbing onto these meaningless issues, like whether or not someone has a sneaker line or whatever. This man has access to nuclear weapons, but it's like, no, but he's cool because he has sneakers. I think that's really interesting. Now, again, I don't tell anybody to vote for Trump or Biden or anybody else. You can vote for whoever you want. I also believe, generally speaking, given that we talk about how unity or disunity can have a huge impact on your wealth and your outcomes and as a family, as a country, as a group. One thing I've concluded is that the Democrat Republican nonsense is going to destroy America. I think that if America goes down, which a lot of indicators say the country is going to really struggle, a lot of it's going to be due to this Democrat Republican nonsense. So if you want to know where I stand, what my personal voting preference is, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I used to be a Democrat. I stopped. It just some of the stuff didn't make any sense to me, and I also believe that I have enough freedom to make the choice that I want to make. I don't care about being persecuted or ridiculed. One of the senior editors at Ebony magazine refused to publish any articles I wrote because, and I think it was because I wouldn't get in line with the whole Democrat Republican stuff. And so as I watched this, I did a poll. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins, Dr. Boyce Watkins, and the number one. So I did a poll on my Twitter and I said, do you think that Trump's sneaker line is going to influence the black vote? And about 25% of the black people that follow me, I have mostly black people that follow me, of course. 25% of you said yes, and the rest of you said no. And I tend to agree that it's a no. But then I also started just thinking about just this idea, like just where would someone even come up with the perception that the black community is so simple minded, so basic, so immature that a sneaker line would really sort of push us over the edge. And then I started thinking about the fact that I happen to know the guy who created the Air Jordan brand. His name's Larry Miller. He's a great guy. Michael Jordan hired him. In case y'all don't know, Michael Jordan hires a lot of black men. I know Michael's very interesting politically. Honestly, I've never met Michael. He doesn't seem like a nice guy in a lot of the clips that I see. But I know Larry pretty well. I've talked to Larry many, many times. And one thing that I kind of picked up on is that they pay that when it comes to the popularity of the Air Jordan sneakers, I really got this sense that they pay very close attention to the urban black male. Now, these are mostly urban black males in their teens, but they are actually trendsetters. They actually set the fashion code for the entire world when it comes to things like sneakers. And so there are people that watch you. So the point I want to make on this is that there are people that study you. They study you like rats in the lab. They study you so they can get things from you. They study you so they can figure out how to get your money. They study you so they can figure out how to get your vote. They study you so they can figure out how to get your kids. They study you so they can figure out how to get your property. They study you so they can take things away from you. And this is something that is important because if you want to understand why I chose to teach a class on economic consciousness, and we do this every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, every single morning, is because this lack of consciousness is where you end up losing in what Dr. Claude Anderson refers to as the doctrine of unequal exchange. You end up losing because because the other team is playing chess and you're playing checkers. You're losing the consciousness battle. They're on the third or fourth dimension. You're still operating on dimensions one and two. They're on high frequency, studying you from above, and you're on low frequency, just living day to day. They're playing powernomics. You're playing strugglenomics. Powernomics is a higher dimensional line of thinking where you're not just looking at what's in front of you. You're looking at the future. You're looking at all the possibilities. You're looking at things from a strategic standpoint. Whereas strugglenomics is where you're just going from struggle to struggle, from stressor to stressor, from tragedy to tragedy. And there are some of us who live our lives that way. Some of us can't focus on long term because there's so many short term obstacles and barriers and problems that you have to constantly solve. Now, I understand, though. I understand some of us were born in the middle of chaos. Some of us came into this world and were dropped in the middle of pretty much what could almost be described as some sort of like socio-economic war zone. Some of you maybe were born in a house where the parents did not even have the maturity to put their own BS to the side for the sake of the children. Maybe you had loved ones who were doing terrible things to each other and terrible things to you. Maybe you had extensive financial insecurity. Maybe you had a neighborhood that was dangerous, like my friend who grew up in South Central and could not think about doing well in school because she was so worried about not getting shot on her way to school. Right? These little things, these lower vibrational problems that pop up, they keep you from seeing the bigger picture. You can't see the big picture if you have to focus on all these little responses to the little picture. And that's true on a bigger scale, as far as how you live your life. It's also true on a smaller scale in terms of how you conduct your day. See, one thing I notice is that when I'm at my least productive, when I am at my lowest point of productivity, let me show you what happens in my day when I'm at the lowest point of productivity. Tell me if you can identify with this. On the days where I'm the least productive, I'm constantly putting out fires. I'm constantly responding to other people. I'm constantly dealing with this person and dealing with that person. And my phone is buzzing and beeping, and I'm tweeting and texting and doing all these little things that don't amount to nothing, fighting off all these little battles like a kung fu movie, right? I can't make a long-term strategic plan if all I can think about is what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. If all I'm doing is just staying keeping my head above water, then I can't really swim very, very far because I'm spending too much time trying not to drown. And this becomes the expected de facto state of existence for many people in the Black community. That it is expected that if you are Black, you're not going to do anything big because you're too concerned about avoiding the tragedy. And what that does, that is traumatic, by the way. That is extreme, extreme trauma. And what that trauma does is it makes it almost impossible for you to build businesses and to explore all the possibilities that life has to offer. It does. It does, because what happens to a traumatized person is the way they view risk is different from a person who's able to focus, who's able to put out the little fires so they can focus on the bigger picture. So let me give you an example. I'll tell you a story. I had a friend named Monica Mehta. Monica is an Indian woman. She's a very nice lady. And she called me and she said, Boyce, I really want to ask you a question. I don't want you to think I'm racist. And I said, well, I know who you are. I know your heart. So just ask me. I don't get offended easy. That stuff don't matter to me. And she said, well, I wrote my book about entrepreneurs and I studied all the different ethnic groups and their probability of becoming entrepreneurs. And she said, I don't understand why African American entrepreneurship rates are so low. She said, not only do you not start very many businesses, but when you start them, they are really incredibly highly likely to fail. And I said, really? I said, wow, I hadn't seen this data. Tell me about it. She told me more about it. And so she said, I have a theory. And I said, well, what's your theory? And she said that when her theory was this. She said, when you look at a risk does not mean that something bad is going to happen. Also, a risk does not mean that something good is going to happen. When you take a chance, you have at least two outcomes, right? Either it's going to work out or it's not going to work out. Or like Michael Jordan explained when he talked about how he thinks about shooting a shot in basketball. He said, either it's going to go in or it's going to go out. And what happens is that the person's trauma levels and perception of risk affects how they view taking that shot. So a person who is extremely afraid, extremely fearful of losing, fearful of rejection, fearful of failure, that person is not going to take very many risks because they don't have any desire to achieve anything. Their desire to go to another level is muted by the extreme irrational fear of not being successful, of falling. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you live, this is why I say you should not live your life based on fear, because if you live your life based on fear, you'll never accomplish anything because you're always so busy being afraid that you can't really prosper. So she said that people with less trauma, they see a risk as this possibility for great things to happen, whereas a person who's heavily traumatized would see risk as another opportunity for something bad to happen. So I'm gonna ask y'all a question. How many of y'all have people in your family where every time you do something different, something risky, they start freaking out and going crazy and getting scared and get bug-eyed, like become a bunch of bug-eyed slaves and start getting nervous and worried. And everybody got relatives like that. Yo, you investing when you know the dollar's gonna crash and all your money is gonna be gone and the stock market's rigged and the white man gonna take all your money. They're gonna show up at your house with a gun and just steal from you. It's gonna go bad and your kids are gonna be homeless and you're not gonna be able to eat, right? Or and don't tell them you're trying to quit that good job to start a business. Woo, buddy. Then you really gonna get it. You really gonna get it. Almost like they're waiting for you to fail, right? They're waiting for you to fail so they can say, I told you so. Because we all want to be right. We all want to believe that our version of reality is the right version. So even the people that love you are going to say so much negative stuff that it can almost make you lose confidence in what you're doing. It can affect you. You eat that. You consume that. That's why it's very important to be very thoughtful about words that you let other people say to you, and also be very thoughtful about words that you say to yourself. When I took my son down to Daytona, I said you should never ever feed yourself negative words about yourself. All I do all day is I tell myself wonderful things about me so that I can remember how great I can be if I do my best. That's it. Really, that's it. That self-talk is extremely important, and the talk that you get from other people is extremely important. If I tell you that I'm trying to climb Mount Everest, I don't need you to tell me all the ways I can die. I don't need you to constantly remind me that most people don't succeed. If you tell me that, I need you to have a follow up at least. I need you to say, well, people have died this way. Here's how you can avoid that, right? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear you encourage me up the mountain by helping me to avoid the common traps that have caused people to not succeed at climbing Mount Everest. The thing I don't need to hear from you is that it's impossible to do and that you're going to freeze to death and bad things are going to happen. That's not going to help me. That my subconscious mind, because remember, the subconscious mind, my wife is an expert at the subconscious mind. Like that's what she studies. And your subconscious mind just sits there. It's like a little secretary. Your subconscious mind just takes notes. Okay, you walk around telling yourself that you're fat. Okay, I'm very fat. That's how think about this thing. Think about those anorexic people, those poor things. Well, the lady will be like 95 pounds and she swears that she's obese. That's the subconscious mind. Your perception becomes your reality. I'm not good at math, so subconscious like okay, not good at math. So somebody could say what's 2 plus 2, and you start freaking out. and you don't get it right because you've convinced yourself that you're not good at math. So the opposite can be true in the other direction. So thinking about your subconscious mind is extremely important when it comes to your success levels. And so anyway, I know that we spun away from Donald Trump into that broader conversation, but what I really want you to understand is the importance of your consciousness and how that consciousness, that lack of consciousness, is used by others to exploit you. That's how a lot of corporations they consciously exploit the lack of consciousness of consumers. They consciously exploit the subconscious of consumers. They study what you do. They study your habits, like that video, "How to Sell to the Negro," or Nielsen ratings. When I read that Nielsen report where they said black people will buy anything that's attached to a celebrity because they worship celebrities. It doesn't matter, smart, dumb, good or bad. They love celebrities because they have money, and some white guy put them on TV. And if you get a laundry detergent and get a celebrity to promote the laundry detergent, people will buy that laundry detergent because the person promoting the laundry detergent sings their favorite song. So ultimately, I would encourage you to think about this in terms of how this shapes your conscious pursuit of whatever it is that matters to you and what you want to do. Now, one thing I wanted to share with you guys is my wife's books. Actually, she has a bunch of books on all kinds of areas related to conflict resolution, getting along with your family, communicating with your partner, stuff like that. I'll share the link if you want to go take a look at some of her stuff. And actually, you can get a 40% discount on anything from Dr. Alicia in the store if you use the code word morning 2024, MORNING, morning 2024. Go to drboycebooks.com and search for the word Alicia. You'll find her stuff there. And there's the link if you guys want to go and take a look at some of her stuff. She's actually doing this weekend, she's doing a gathering, like an online summit with a bunch of therapists, and they're going to analyze that. There's this series called "Who the F Did I Marry?" So Sunday on Fly Nubian Queen, she's going to get together with all these therapists, and they're going to analyze this series. This lady did this 50 video series that got millions of views. She made $250,000 from these videos. I'm really happy for her. But she's basically talking about her experience dealing with a husband that was a pathological liar, and it's a fascinating, interesting story. And where my wife looks at it from a relationship therapeutic standpoint, and this guy kind of ruined her life. He messed up her finances. He did all these things that they are going to happen when you trust a person who should not be trusted. But also, I kind of look at it like I like to dissect. I like to look at the autopsy of the dead body and just say, what can we learn from this? What is it that happened here that could have been seen, prevented, avoided, managed properly, or whatever? And because I think that that's the only way you can benefit from it. So anyway, if you want to get notified when she goes live doing this, or get a bunch of other stuff from Alicia, you can text the word love to 87948. If you text love to 87948, I'll send you that link to her stuff. And also, you'll get a free e-copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking. So if that's your thing, then just text the word love to 87948. Okay. So all right. So how all right, so when you talk about